In this method, we're going to be swapping characters within an existing string instead of creating a new string like in our last method. Here's how the algorithm works for strings with an odd amount of characters. We'll mark the first position in the string with I and mark the last position with a J. We'll swap the contents of I and J, then increment I to its next position and decrement J to its next position. We'll keep doing this until I and J eventually become equal and access the same letter. It's at this point where we want to stop the swapping process. We could swap the letter with itself, but that would just be pointless. Our condition is that we'll stop when I equals J. In other words, we'll keep swapping the letters while J is greater than I. For a string with an even amount of characters, the algorithm will stay the same, except there is a slight twist in our condition. As we continue to swap characters, there will be a point in the middle of the string where I and J will actually switch places. When I and J switch places, we don't want to swap its contents, otherwise the letters would go back to the places they were originally in. This is where we stop the swapping process. So our condition is that we'll stop when J is less than I. In other words, keep swapping while J is greater than I. Notice that in both odd and even numbered strings, our conditions are the same. We'll keep swapping while J is greater than I. This is actually the condition that we'll put in our while statement in our code. Now let's start the main program. We'll put hello into string s. We'll initialize int I to 0 to access the first letter in string s. Then we'll initialize int j to be s.size minus 1 to access the last letter in string s. Now let's create a function that allows us to switch letters in string s. The diagram on the top right of the video demonstrates how a typical swap function will work. We'll take the last letter and put it into temp, which is a variable of type char. Then we'll replace the last letter in string s with the first letter. Then we'll replace the first letter with the character that was in temp. Here we'll create a variable temp which will hold a character. We'll assign temp so that it is equal to the last letter of the string. Then we'll replace the last letter with the first letter. Then we'll replace the first letter with the character that was in temp. Because we want to repeat the swap function multiple times, we'll use a while loop. As mentioned earlier, our condition will be that we'll execute the swap function while j is greater than I. Make sure to increment I and decrement j so that we don't keep swapping the same letters over and over. Now let's see what s contains. It contains the reverse of hello. Now let's change it to object, which contains an even number of characters. S now holds the reverse of object.